They blocked her from boarding the destroyer, but the ship itself stopped the entire commissioning ceremony for her. No alarms, no threats. Just one message flashing across every screen. Requesting ID, H47 Black Priority. A clearance so secret, every officer froze. Because H codes belong to one type of person, the kind the Navy declares dead. And when the scanner whispered, "Welcome back, Commander Aria Locke," the whole warship powered down, as if it knew something the living didn't. They said civilians weren't allowed anywhere near the destroyer that morning, especially not during a commissioning ceremony, the most rigid, polished, unforgiving event in the Navy's entire calendar. But the woman standing at the foot of the gangway didn't look like she cared. She wasn't dressed for the occasion. She wasn't wearing a badge. She wasn't even carrying an invitation. Just a weather-faded duffel bag, and eyes that looked like they had watched storms swallow ships whole. The two petty officers blocking the ramp exchanged a confused glance. "Ma'am, this area is restricted. Commissioning in progress. You can't board." She didn't argue. She didn't plead. She simply said quietly, "I need to step aboard that ship." Her voice wasn't arrogant. It wasn't desperate either. It was something else. Something that made both sailors straighten without understanding why. But rules were rules. "Ma'am, I'm sorry," the senior petty officer insisted, shoulders tightening. "Nobody gets through without clearance." The woman exhaled, slowly, like someone who was used to being told no by people who didn't know better. She looked past them, up the gleaming ladder well toward the ship's newly painted nameplate. USS Valiant. Her fingers tightened around the strap of her duffel. Behind them, the band played. Officers stood in perfect rows. The Admiral himself stepped onto the dais, ready to deliver his speech. The ceremony was seconds from beginning, and still, she did not move. The petty officers shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, we really need you to step back." The woman's jaw flexed. Her boots remained planted. "I won't repeat myself," she said quietly. "I need to be on that deck." Before the sailor could reply, a sharp metallic clang echoed from above. A signal halyard snapped against a mast. Radio static hissed from every speaker, and then the ceremony stopped. Every officer on the pier turned toward the ship. The Admiral froze mid-sentence. The band fell silent. The ship's giant onboard screens flickered, and a single line of text blinked into existence. "Unauthorized presence detected. Identity confirmation required." The petty officers stared at the woman. Did you do that?" She didn't answer. The ship's alarms didn't activate. No red lights, no klaxons. Almost like the ship wasn't warning them, but waiting for something. Then a hollow metallic thud traveled through the hull. Everyone heard it. Everyone felt it. A lock releasing. A mechanism recognizing someone it shouldn't. The petty officers stepped back. "Ma'am, what exactly?" Another thud. Deeper. Heavier. This time followed by the ship's internal PA system crackling alive. "Stand by for command level clearance." Command level. The type reserved for admirals, fleet controllers, people with entire oceans under their authority. Not for women carrying weather-worn duffels. And then a second line appeared on every screen across the destroyer, requesting and H47 Black Priority status, classified until 2039 murmurs, rippled across the pier. H codes weren't just secret. They were buried, restricted, deleted from most naval archives. One petty officer swallowed hard. "Ma'am, H47. That's impossible. Those are ghosts. That's retired Black Ops authorization." The woman closed her eyes for a second, as if bracing herself to face a memory she'd tried to abandon. When she opened them again, She simply said, "Step aside." But this time, they did. Because the ship had just recognized something the Navy had pretended didn't exist anymore. As she placed one foot on the first step of the gangway, someone shouted from the pier, "Stop her!" An ensign sprinted toward her, waving a clipboard, panic in his voice. "Ma'am, you cannot board. You're not on the manifest. Your name doesn't appear anywhere. I checked twice." She paused, barely turned her head. "My name isn't supposed to appear." Before he could speak, the ship's holographic identification panel, normally used for facial scans, slid open with a gentle mechanical breath. Blue light spilled over her features. The scanner hummed. "Identity match," the computer said. A wave of gasps swept the pier. The ensign's face drained of color. The petty officers stepped back like they had just realized they had been guarding the wrong person, because the computer didn't just say identity match. It added a second line, a line no warship should ever be able to say aloud. "Welcome back, Commander Arya Locke." Dead silence. Every officer stared. The admiral lowered his script. Commander Arya Locke. A name that hadn't been spoken on a naval frequency in years. A name the Navy declared KIA after an operation that was still whispered about in classrooms, but never officially documented. The woman climbed one more step. The ensign stammered, "But you were dead?" She finished for him. "Yes, I know." The deck under her boots vibrated gently, like the ship itself recognized her weight. The admiral finally found his voice. "Locke, that can't be. That operation, your entire team." She raised a hand. "Not here," she said. "Not in front of them." Every camera on the pier pointed at her. Every sailor held their breath. The commissioning ceremony was forgotten. Because Commander Arya Locke, a woman the Navy buried, erased, and swore would never return, had just boarded the newest destroyer in the fleet, without permission, and the ship had let her. She reached the top of the gangway, looked back at the admiral, and the words she spoke next froze every sailor alive. "Whoever tried to stop me from boarding this ship didn't want me discovering what's inside." She stepped onto the deck. The ship sealed the gangway behind her. The alarms finally sounded, and the entire destroyer powered down, as if bracing for something only she understood. When the klaxon finally settled into a low, uneasy hum, everyone on the deck stared at her, as if she were the reason the ship itself had stopped breathing. Lieutenant Mira Elling did not move. She kept her eyes locked on Captain Rowan, waiting for the words she knew were coming. But even he looked shaken, standing frozen beneath the ceremonial flags that had stopped fluttering the second the engines powered down. A ship that size never fell silent, not unless something or someone forced it. The XO stepped closer, whispering, "Captain, the system didn't just pause its diagnostics. It refused the command. It's waiting." "Waiting for what?" Rowan asked. Mira already knew the answer. The warship wasn't waiting for an order. It was waiting for her. The moment she tried to board earlier, the scanners rejected her identity. Then the ceremony halted, as if the ship recognized her before the humans did. And now, with the entire crew watching, the forward screens flickered back to life. Lines of encrypted text scrolled down, read, fast, authoritative, access code acknowledged, returned operative detected, protocol Argos resumes. Gasps erupted across the flight deck. Only 3 people alive knew what protocol Argos was, and last anyone heard, all 3 were dead. Rowan stepped toward her, voice unsteady. "Mira, what have you done?" "I didn't come here to activate anything," she said. "I came to warn you." The words snapped every sailor into stillness. The warship vibrated, microshifts running through the steel hull like a creature waking up from a long sleep. The crew stared, as the central display revealed a map, one showing an unseen vessel trailing them. Staying just outside detection range, that ship shouldn't have been there. It shouldn't have known this ceremony was happening. It shouldn't have known she would return. Rowan's face drained of colour. Is that who I think it is? Mira nodded once. The same people who shut down my team, the same ones who tried to erase every trace of Argos. They're here because they know I survived. Then why stop the ceremony? The XO asked. Why reveal themselves now? Because they're not here to watch, Mira whispered. They're here to finish what they started. The pursuing vessel suddenly surged forward, its silhouette sharpening on the display. Every alarm on the warship blared at once. Officers scrambled, shouting over each other as the ship attempted an automatic defense sequence. But the system rejected every command, except hers. Rowan turned back to her, a harsh truth dawning in his eyes. You're the only one it will listen to. This ship, your old code, it was built around you. And they know that, Mira said. That's why they forced me back out of hiding. A voice crackled through the comms, distorted, cold, unmistakably deliberate. Operative Elling, stand down, surrender your clearance, or we'll take it from your corpse. Every sailor froze. Mira lifted her chin, eyes narrowing. Tell them they made a mistake. Rowan swallowed. What mistake? They thought I came here alone. She placed her hand on the biometric console. For the first time in years, it accepted her. The warship roared back to life. Engines awakened, weapons powered, lights blazed through the decks like rising fire. The pursuing vessel stopped dead. As if realizing too late that the hunter had just become the prey, Rowan stared in disbelief. Mira, what is this ship? A promise, she said, one they tried to bury. The comms crackled again, more threats, more demands. But Mira didn't wait for them to finish. She whispered a single command. Lock target. The ship obeyed instantly. The enemy vessel scrambled. Too slow, too unprepared. The warship surged forward like a predator claiming back its territory. And as the crew braced for impact, Rowan turned to her, one last time. Why come back now? Because they weren't just hunting me, she said. They were coming for all of you. Outside, the ocean split open in a blaze of steel and fire, and the warship, reborn under her command, made sure the world knew that the woman they tried to erase had returned with a vengeance.